Doctors swore an oath to preserve all lives, but what happens when doctors go woke? Are they no longer allowed to say all lives matter? Welcome to America Uncovered. I'm Chris Chappell. DEI is everywhere. It's influencing academia, corporations, even the US military. But not chess. The proud black kingdom trying to overcome the tyranny of the white colonizers? I'm shocked this hasn't been turned into a Disney movie. So what happens when the people you rely on for life-saving treatments go woke? Well, unfortunately, we know the answer. The medical industry has already gone woke. And I'm not talking about how that guy from Operations seems to be non-binary. In the wake of George Floyd's death, American medical institutions rushed to let the world know that they're anti-racist allies who want to dismantle the evil of institutional racism. And they've done that by making American healthcare affordable for all Americans. No, I'm just kidding. They did that by promoting anti-racist training. The Association of American Medical Colleges called on medical educators and the medical community to employ anti-racist and unconscious bias training and engage in interracial dialogues. Many medical schools heeded the call, because schools can't resist DEI. Not even schools of fish. That's why there's so many fish of color here. And the only white fish you'll find is in a deli. Medical institutions everywhere established anti-racist curriculum and other anti-racist initiatives, like anti-racist task forces. You'd be hard-pressed not to find one that hasn't made anti-racism a thing. A great example is the University of Pennsylvania's Perelman School of Medicine. It created a project called Penn Medicine and the Afterlives of Slavery Project. Is it just me? Or does Afterlives of Slavery just sound like the world's darkest Ghostbusters sequel? This project's goal is reshaping medical education by creating social justice-informed medical curricula that use race critically to train the next generation of race-conscious physicians. Call me old-fashioned, but when I hear race-conscious physician, the first thing that pops into my mind is Joseph Mengele. He was super conscious about race. Faculty at the University of California, San Francisco, and UC Berkeley went so far as to promote racial affinity groups for medical students. Racial affinity groups are a fun way of saying groups whose membership is based on race. Because gosh, the medical community just really misses those Jim Crow laws we worked so hard to get rid of. Also, I'm pretty sure there already is a pretty popular racial affinity group. It's called the Ku Klux Klan. Unfortunately, the medical industry isn't only pushing for racial training, it also wants doctors to become political activists, something I'm sure every patient wants of their doctors. Case in point, the American Medical Association, one of the largest and most important medical associations in the US, urges doctors and healthcare systems to dismantle structural racism and intersecting systems of oppression. That sounds nice, but can you just tell me why my throat is scratchy, please? So in addition to the difficult task of healing people, doctors must now completely change society. And all this is literally laid out in the American Medical Association's report called Advancing Health Equity, a guide to language, narrative, and concepts. The report advocates for a health equity-based public narrative that would focus attention on inequitable systems, hierarchies, social structure, power relations, and institutional practices. Avoid blaming individuals for their medical conditions and encourage public dialogue on structural racism and all forms of oppression and inequity. Yes, if patients are overweight and diabetic because they're eating way too much Domino's pizza and doing all-nighter Fortnite matches, you can't blame them, you gotta blame the social conditions. Those fat, lazy, unemployed social conditions. The American Medical Association even wants physicians, healthcare workers, and others to expose the political roots of things like property rights, market conditions, gentrification, oligopolies, and low wage rates. Because when I go to the doctor, the one thing I definitely want to hear is the leftist lecture on politics and economics. Well, that and the test came back negative. With doctors and the medical community putting this ideology into action, there are some real-world consequences as a result. And they just might terrify you. I'll tell you more after the break. Welcome back. So I know we all want more diversity in our medical institutions, and the way they're doing that is by lowering standards. University of Pennsylvania's Perelman School of Medicine announced a pipeline program to get more students of color into medicine. They're doing this by allowing students to participate in a program where students shadow physicians and join student clinics instead of taking the medical college admissions test, since it's often viewed as a significant barrier to entry into the medical field. Yeah, that's the whole point of admissions tests. Being barriers to people who aren't qualified. You don't want to open the door to everyone to enter. That's how you wind up with even more open doors on planes. Besides lowering standards, medical institutions are even changing how they respond to the presence of drugs in newborns because of race, of course. Mass General Brigham in Massachusetts, the state's largest hospital network, recently announced that it won't automatically file neglect reports to state welfare agencies for babies born with drugs in their systems. Because it's not the mother's fault for getting high while pregnant, it's their social conditions, those dangerously irresponsible and neglectful social conditions. They're doing this to confront racial disparities in outcomes in addition to structural racism. This is part of their United Against Racism effort. They say it's to help black pregnant women since they tend to be drug tested and reported to child welfare systems more than white people. Oops, did I say black pregnant women? I meant black pregnant people. Because truly, we can't be so bigoted as to exclude pregnant men. I mean, I prefer a doctor who thinks men can and do get pregnant. They're clearly masters of basic biology. Now, if you're worried about the health of black babies, don't be. If we have fewer reports and drug tests on black birthing people, then it obviously means that black kids are just as safe and healthy as white kids. As long as we don't track disparities, they don't exist. Of course, fighting disparities is intentionally a never-ending struggle. To make sure everybody's being treated fairly, medical establishments are also pushing for racial preferences. New York did just that back during COVID by prioritizing non-white people in distributing COVID treatments. There are even calls to increase diversity in the transplant workforce because somehow this will make kidney health more equitable. Yeah, the calls for equity don't stop there. There's much, much more. For example, Brigham and Women's Hospital announced that it would address disparities in heart failure admissions by taking race into consideration. I wouldn't be surprised if even surgeries start getting prioritized for people of a certain race over others. Oh wait, New Zealand is already doing it. Look, if you want to join an organization where you wear flowing white outfits and prioritize people based on their race, there's, well, you can see where I'm going with this. Hey, you like America Uncovered? Well, I can't afford to keep making it without your support on the crowdfunding website patreon.com/America Uncovered. All it takes is $1 an episode. I usually make about 12 episodes a month, but if that's too much for you, you can always set a monthly limit. So you could help me continue to uncover America for just $1 a month. Just click on this orange button to support the show. You can also support me by clicking here for the latest episode of my new show, Deep Thoughts While Gaming, about the game Like a Dragon, Infinite Wealth. Once again, I'm Chris Chappell. Thanks for watching America Uncovered.